Just grab it and go up.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Al Stash and Dennis Keating on my far right. We're here for Uptown Villa Park, the weekly program for folks in Villa Park and beyond. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Dan Gibbons, the Executive Director of the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot Foundation. Good morning, how are you?
Hi, guys.
Good morning, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Dan Gibbons is an Elmhurst resident and our guest here today. And the reason for his visit has to do with this coming Thanksgiving. As you just heard, Thanksgiving Turkey Trot Foundation, a 3-decade event, and we'll talk about the details in a moment. But let me put this in perspective for a second. Here in Villa Park, we're a community of about 22,000 people. And every day, 3 times that number of people in DuPage County are challenged by hunger. Doesn't mean that they don't eat, it means that they don't eat well. They don't eat enough, or they are starving and need assistance from various organizations. And the quote that Dan and the organization has used for a number of years is, if not us, who? If not now, when? And Thanksgiving is an important day for us to have a nice family meal, and a very appropriate time for us to take a look around us and say, hey, there's some people that need our help. Why don't we do it now? And that's what we're here to talk about, is the Turkey Trot in Elmhurst on Thanksgiving morning. On that same day, there'll be 2 more significant events here in Villa Park and Elmhurst. And of course, many of you are familiar with the VFW Post 2801 here on St. Charles Road, who annually will bring about 150 to 200 Navy recruits from Great Lakes Station in Great Lakes, Illinois, northern suburb of Chicago. And they will come to the VFW for an annual Thanksgiving dinner. They're in the throes of their basic training, and this is their first opportunity to get out in the world since they started basic training, call their mom, have a nice dinner, and a bunch of volunteers help with that dinner. The same thing is going to happen after a couple of years of mentoring this program in Elmhurst at the American Legion on Spring Road and Butterfield Road. So it's a great time for us to start giving back to people that we support, but more importantly, to be able to support a program like the Turkey Trot Foundation, because that helps year-round with people who don't have a place to go back to eat. They need our support through the various organizations. So Dan, let's get started and talk about this.
Absolutely.
Okay? You've been doing this Turkey Trot event, this 32nd annual year. Tell us about it.
Well, on Thanksgiving morning, we'll have, excuse me, over 8,000 people. It's a fun run. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
Okay.
We'll have 8,000 people that walk and run. They're not timed. So many races are timed and chipped. We're not.
Right.
And our goal, our mission is to raise money, and our ultimate goal is to eradicate hunger in DuPage County.
Right, right.
So we've been planning. This is a year-round planning, for this event. So
what got this started? I mean, you've been involved from the very beginning, and it has your name as part of the title of the event. What motivated you to do this? How did you all get started?
in 1983, I fell asleep on a Friday night listening to Eddie Schwartz,
Okay.
who was the an all-night talk show host on WGN.
WGN Radio, yeah.
I was listening to his inaugural Good Neighbor Food Drive when the radio station was on Bradley Place. He was mad at Mayor Byrne because she was spending $300,000 on fireworks
Yeah.
when so many people in Chicago were going to bed hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So he started his annual Good Neighbor Food Drive, and I fell asleep listening to it, and I thought, I could be helping. There's something that maybe I could do to help this cause.
Mm-hmm.
You could have drove through the line and drop off food.
I could've.
We all did.
Right,
we
right.
all did. We drove
Everybody
through.
did. There was always a long line.
Mm-hmm.
The following September, when I was coaching at Visitation, I coached football there for 10 years.
Visitation's a Catholic school on
It's
York Road,
York
Elmhurst.
Road in South Elmhurst.
Okay.
So I was talking to my buddies that I was coaching with. I said, what can we do? Maybe we could do some type of an event, raise some money for them, or go down and help, or whatever. So at that time, 5Ks and runs, they weren't very big. There were a few around. Now, every weekend there's 10 different walks and runs.
Right.
But at that time, there weren't many.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, why don't we put together maybe a walk, a run? And I said, okay, that's great. Who's going to organize it? well, Dan, you're the single guy. Why don't you? I said, okay. What are we going to call it? So another guy says, well, when are we going to do it? I said, let's do it on Thanksgiving morning. That's easy. We'll call it the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
In that very first year, we had 74 runners and walkers, and we raised $520. We were only going to do a one-time thing. Took the check down and gave it to Schwartz at his second annual, and that was it.
That's a significant amount of money in 1983. It wasn't a small amount.
Right.
But then you had another conversation with a friend of yours, with the Benevolent Fund in Elmhurst Police, over at a restaurant that a lot of people know about. Tell us, restaurant.
Silverado Restaurant, or Silverado Grill.
Was called what at that?
Back then in '84, it was called Sunset Grill.
Okay, and it's on Spring Road, right by the Canadian National Tracks, going down Spring Road from New York. I mean, from St. Charles.
Sure.
And tell us what happened in that conversation.
So I'm sitting in there,
mind your own business.
I'm having a beer with he was a lieutenant at the time, Bob Jones, and we're watching the Bears game. And he said, "Are you going to do that thing again?" So what do you mean? He goes, "That walk or run, whatever you did." I said, "No, we're probably not going to do it because we don't have any sponsors." So he got up and went out to the vestibule to a payphone. How long ago was this? And he came back and he said, "I've got $250 for you from their Benevolent Athletic Association." And it's the giving arm of the Elmhurst Police. They donate to the Kiwanis and the JCs and any other organization that needs some help. So with that, with the credibility of having the Elmhurst Police as a sponsor, my very first sponsor, then I went to Dave Plummer at Elmhurst Federal. I went to Bob Schiller at Schiller Real Estate. And a friend of mine, Bill Billings, who was a trader at Billings Equities. Now I've got $1,000 if we want to do it again.
Right.
So I went back to my guys and said, if we want to do it again, I've got $1,000. Do you want to? They said, sure. Who's going to organize it? You, Dan. Well, what are we going to call it? Because whatever we call it, the name's got to stick. Can't change it now, Dan. That's the brand. So here we are 31 years later with the same name and the same guy running it, but I do it with 200 plus volunteers that morning. And
I've seen some interviews that you've done where you right away talk about how many people are involved in this program, and you don't have this big ego. It's not about you. It's about the program and those people that help you. And you look at you've got a huge tent, like the registration tent that gets set up, and there's rows and rows and rows and rows of people there to support this event.
And they're there. They show up at 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving morning to just get set up and volunteer. They've been some of the same people have been doing it for years. We're lucky enough this year to also have the gymnasium, R.A. Faginal Hall at Elmhurst College. They've become a great partner. So a lot of our volunteers are going to be able to register people in the warmth of a gymnasium instead of a 10,000 square foot tent that we can only hope to keep warm.
Keep warm, yeah.
We're still going to have the tent there, but it'll be a warming tent. So looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
But let's go back to 1984, the first year that you ran this. You had that $1,000 from the 4 sponsors, but that's significant money that you needed to raise, as well as significant donations by those organizations. It's got to be a challenge to get people to sponsor back in 1983 an event that's a year old.
It is. And first of all, I say, well, there was an education on the hunger problem to begin with. Now it's very prominent. People are very, very aware. But back in the mid-'80s, people say, we can't. Who's hungry, especially in DuPage County? Back then, DuPage County was the 7th richest county in the nation.
Right.
We're still not bad. We're in the mid-50s, but stop and think about it. A food pantry in Elmhurst, no way. It's all about education and awareness. And Dennis and I were talking before the camera started to roll. It's a pride thing. If you're hungry, you don't want to admit it, especially our seniors. Our seniors are so proud. And you take, I tell everybody, take a look at that skyline in the city. Who built it? The very people that made that skyline great are the same people that might be hungry right now, but won't admit it. Won't come to you for help. So
And that's the way a lot of people are. And we've talked about that at Dennis.
Many times,
with
yeah.
The other folks that we've had here, we've had Pam Sarno from York Township,
Sure.
Yeah.
who ran the food pantry
The
program.
problem we have
Still
in
does, I
DuPage
think.
County is people who got the money and have no problem donating,
Right,
they don't know who to give it to. They don't know who to give it to.
Right.
right.
They think, well, DuPage County, if I give it to Dan, he's going to take it and send it to Chicago. I don't want it to go to Chicago. I want to stay here.
Right. Right.
How do we guarantee them that the money will stay here?
All of the organizations that we support are based in DuPage County.
Right.
Years ago, we did help the Chicago Anti-Hunger Federation. In fact, I was the director there for several years. But when your competition, and I don't mean I mean friendly competition.
Yes.
It's the Greater Chicago Food Depository and us,
Mm-hmm.
Goliath and David. Well, when you talk about federal and state and city funding, the Greater Food Depository, got the funds, and we had to gracefully close our doors. That's when we made the decision, went to Dan Cronin and Mary Keating at the county, said all of our funds are going to stay in DuPage County. And basically, it's the same theory. I mean, I don't want anybody overseas in Somalia, all these other countries. I don't want anybody going to bed hungry.
No.
But we need to take care of our people in our backyard first.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that includes not just Villa Park, Elmhurst, Glen Ellen, Naperville, or Glen Ellen, Lombard, Naperville.
Right.
All of the communities in
All of DuPage, right.
County.
Right.
And you went to school at Immaculate Conception,
I did.
didn't you?
I did.
And they have a food pantry
They do.
program there. Yeah.
They have a food pantry, and the Elmhurst Walk-In Ministry refers people to the IC Food Pantry. They all are benefactors of our.
We have
our
a food pantry in Southville Avenue in Villa Park here. They run out of food almost every Saturday morning. They're out of it. They can't get enough.
Right.
Well, that's
and
it.
St. Pius has one as
Yeah,
well.
and they all
Pius and
have.
New York, and Pam Sarno at the York Township.
Had one, yeah.
We take care
They're
of them.
always
But
taking-
before I leave today, give me the name of that. Is it a church that runs out
Church,
of that?
yeah,
What church is it?
Reardon and Villa
Disciples.
Avenue.
Disciples Food Pantry is what it's
Yeah,
called.
we interviewed them, and they were very, the problem is, the problem is still the people in town here don't believe it.
Yeah.
They need help.
Well, let's talk about some of the statistics.
Okay.
Back in 1984, the poverty level and the minimum wage were a lot smaller, but the poverty level was what? What are we talking about?
Poverty level, anybody that made $10,650 was the poverty level.
Yeah,
Minimum wage was $3.35.
$3.35.
What? And if you work the 40-hour week at $3.35, you gross to $130. I think it's $134 maybe.
Yeah.
How do you? Come on. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Right, even then.
Even then,
But now the minimum wage is what, $8.25?
$8.25.
Okay,
And if in a two-parent household, if a mom and dad are both working at
Yeah.
$8.25, what do they have to do to be able to afford a two-bedroom apartment?
and two kids.
And two kids.
Yeah.
The minimum wage at $8.25, poverty level is $23,000.
Right.
Try and find an apartment, a two-bedroom. You can't do
And you
it.
got all these choices. You have to have living, you have to have transportation to your job, you
Right.
have to have,
Well, and
taxes paid, whatever you got to pay.
That's the dilemma that many seniors face. They're on a fixed income, and they have to choose between rent, heat,
Or medicine.
Water bill, or
medicine.
medicine.
Yeah.
and prescription medications always are the first choice. I shouldn't say always, 95%. What's the last?
Right, food.
Food.
Right.
And that's why I encourage people to say, what can I do? Well, you can help, you can volunteer, you can write a check. But I think it's so important for people in their neighborhood to do a well-being check on the elderly. First of all, like I said before, they're proud. They don't want to ask for help. But once they get help the first time, they're okay with it.
Right.
When you
That's
go in
good
and
enough.
knock,
That's good enough,
go
yeah.
and knock on your neighbor's door and just say, hey, how you doing? I saw your newspaper, or I'm through with my newspaper. You can read it, and then take a peek.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Maybe
You'd be surprised.
food is
You'd be
an issue.
shocked.
Right.
Yeah, you'd
you'd
be
be
shocked.
shocked is
You'd
what
be-
you would be.
Right.
Many,
So-
many years ago, we went to J.C.'s in Villa Park, and my wife and a few of us were on the committee. We gave out turkey dinners to people at Christmas time. And it was a great idea. We were feeling so good about ourselves. And my wife and another girl was giving out turkey dinner on the north side of Villa Park. They brought this big turkey to the woman, and here you are, and everything. And the woman had her head down. And I said, what's the problem? She said, I got no place to put the turkey. I got no refrigerator, no electricity, no nothing.
Wow.
And thank God it was cold that day. We said, leave it outside here. She said, I don't know, it disappeared.
Yeah.
And so she, this was 40 years ago. And this is in Villa Park. This is not Elmhurst and
There's
not
so
Chicago.
many. There's so many things involved with it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just hunger, but what goes with it. So many of and I love all the agencies that we help because they take a holistic approach. If a mom with her kids come in and they ask for help, they do an assessment to see what other needs the family might have. You don't know, maybe one of the children has a limp because of a bad leg or something.
Yeah.
So they need some type of a certain brace, or maybe a cane, or maybe a walker. It could be anything. What other issues does the family have? Food is an issue. What about your utilities?
Clothing.
Yeah.
I mean, so many. When I was with Catholic Charities, we had this mobile food pantry that would come out to various different churches, and their snow was going sideways. We're giving groceries to families. These little kids don't even have mittens or jackets.
Yeah.
So Amy Palumbo, who was our community services director, she had a trunk. She opened up her trunk and giving away mittens and coats.
Yeah.
There's so many things involved with it. It's incredible.
Dan Cronin gave out top coats
Right,
how many years?
for years.
Years and years.
3 years.
One time years ago, my wife and I took one of the Santa letters, and that the post office gets, and,
Sure.
and we got whatever was on the list for the family. And it turned out to be a location in the city of Chicago. So I went down there, and it was not a good neighborhood, so I didn't want to be a hero. And I called the local police district and said, "Could you help me get this upstairs?" Because it was an apartment building.
Sure.
Went upstairs, and they escorted me up there after they checked it out. Everything was good. And it was a family of 3, mother and 2 children. They all had their coats on. They had plastic on the windows. And we had, what we normally eat for Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner. We had a turkey and a ham and all the stuff that goes with it. And they didn't, like you said, they didn't need to worry about refrigeration because they could have set it in
Sure.
the dining room.
Yeah.
Right.
And it would have been fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a holistic approach, but we can focus on this part
Sure.
for now. And how does someone who needs help get started? What's the first step?
My initial answer to that is to go to your local church, community center. I would even go to Village Hall or the police station because they have the resources.
Yeah.
They could refer somebody to PADS for shelter, or they could refer somebody to Pam Sarno at the township for food. Seniors, because they're involved with Meals on Wheels.
Right.
To the church that you were telling me about.
Yeah.
Don't forget to give me that
I
information.
will, yeah.
I would start there. And then you can work your way up to where you could become a regular at, say, Loaves and Fishes or People's Resource Center, West Suburban Community Pantry.
Right.
And that's where a better in-depth assessment will be taken. So many of the volunteers at these major food banks were clients at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so good
They
to see.
They see you here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And what you
And-
point out is important too, that there are different organizations, and unfortunately, you can't go every day to the same
No.
food
No,
bank.
no.
Whether it's York Township or the Disciples or whatever I see, they have their limitations, which they have to,
Right.
for any family to come there, whether it's once a week or once a month or whatever it might be.
Most of them
So
it's
you
once a
don't
month, but I think because, and Schwartz was instrumental in this as well. It's once a month for most.
Yeah.
Some of the larger ones are opening up to twice a month,
Yeah.
which is good. That enables somebody somewhere between $300 and $600 worth of
Right.
groceries if you were to buy them retail. But years ago, and I got involved with Schwartz on his committee and was part of the food drive for a number of years, and he advocated for the Good Samaritan Act, meaning a restaurant can donate food left over
Right.
without having to worry about the liability of being sued
Right.
should somebody get sick.
Right. Right.
And that really opened up a lot of doors for in-kind donations
Yeah.
that people aren't afraid to donate to, Loaves and Fishes, People's Resource Center. So it takes the liability off of businesses.
Does
The
that
township's got a place. They go out and pick up at retail stores.
Yes.
They go out to pick up the buns and bread left
Yeah.
over. And,
Yeah, it's called Rescue.
rescue.
Yeah.
They
And
do
then,
that. Yeah.
and then if you've got enough volunteers, you pick up produce at Jewel. cases of this, that,
Ultra food,
and they glean the food. Let's say you got cabbages and carrots, throw away the bad, keep the good,
Right.
and that also falls into the Good Samaritan.
Good, yeah.
I remember as a kid, my uncle was a driver, semi-driver, and he would deliver food products to grocery stores. But sometimes they'd get a shipment that was, the color of the product wasn't right. The labeling on the box wasn't the standards of the company, whether it was Nabisco or Kraft or whomever. And he had to, before this had this Good Samaritan law, he had to go around the system
Sure.
because he had a trailer full of cereal
Hmm.
that was the wrong sugar color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the company said, you've got to throw it out.
Hmm.
And he found a way to get it to somebody that could use
Yeah.
it.
Sure.
And he had to go around the system. So I'm glad that they have that now
Sure.
to give them the capability to use product that's just fine.
Well, and some of it too is if you take a donation, use by or sell by or freeze by, there's so much leeway in that.
Yeah.
And you need to know
There's a big
those
buffer.
labels.
Right.
Yeah. So if you've got pork chops or frozen chicken breast or legs, whatever, and it might say use by or sell by, and in, back in the day you'd say we have to throw this away. Well, there's wiggle room on the end of
Yeah, it might be a
everything.
week,
Yeah.
couple days.
Exactly.
Many years, Elmhurst had a good company over there called Keeper Cookie.
Sure.
They gave away cookie. You know, if a school would come and say, "Hey, can you donate cookies?"
Yeah.
They'd send half a truckload to
Sure.
some of these schools.
Sure.
They said share them, you know, and they make
Yeah.
sure you share them.
Right.
Yeah.
But
That's
Keeper was a very good
Yeah.
community company.
Well, we're talking with Dan Gibbons of the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot Foundation, and I want to get to when you run this turkey trot, which is Thanksgiving morning in Elmhurst, Illinois, on Park Boulevard,
Yeah, it's park and the start line is Park and Cottage Hill.
right by the Metro train station
Right.
in Elmhurst, Illinois. But you raise money through this race and sponsorships and registration events. Who gets that money? What organizations do you support?
The 6 major ones are People's Resource Center in Wheaton, Loaves and Fishes in Naperville, and People's Resource Center just recently opened up a satellite spot in Westmont.
Yeah.
Catholic Charities in DuPage, which is stone's throw from here, which they provide a lot of help in the Villa Park. United Community Concerns Association. This is an Elmhurst group that focuses on School District 205, hungry families and hungry seniors in 205.
I'm not knocking anything. You mentioned Wheaton, Naperville, and Elmhurst.
But they're
Those
countywide.
are countywide, but I mean, those seems like the 3 richest suburbs in DuPage County.
Right.
Are they
Seems like
are
it.
they in need for it?
They are.
Okay.
And that's, that's,
Yeah.
but then there's West Suburban Community Pantry in Lisle and Woodridge, DuPage Pads, which is countywide, and they're a shelter facility. But we also take care of the York Township,
York Township.
Elmhurst Walk-In Ministry, the IC Food Pantry, the Yorkfield Food Pantry at York and Butterfield, and they're expanding. The problem, and we'll get into expansion thoughts, but I was talking to Dennis. I would like to know that church that runs out of food on Saturday, because we need to get a little bit more involved in Villa Park.
Yeah.
Not only
Welcome.
yeah,
You always-
not only in the future for the expansion that we're talking about, but for now, I don't want to see anybody run out of food
Right.
on Saturday.
We had a murder in Chicago this past 2 weeks. Matter of fact, the funeral, I think, is today, of a 9-year-old kid.
Right.
Now, these kids that come home, and maybe this kid's not involved in it, but these kids come home and they're hungry, 9, 10, 11 years old. What do you expect them to do if they want to eat? They go out in the street.
Sure.
You know, how do we get to those people in DuPage County? Because they're on the street now more than at home.
Well, we were talking before the camera started to roll, and it's a systemic problem. If a child can't eat, they can't. If they go to bed hungry, they wake up hungry. When they go to school, they don't think about learning. All they care about is being hungry. Every December, I would get a call back when I was with the Chicago Anti-Hunger Federation from Diane Doherty, who's the director of the Illinois Hunger Coalition.
Right.
She would get a report from Washington, the FRAC, Federal Research Action Committee. every December, the first week in December, on the state rankings for the school breakfast program. 5 years in a row, and if I checked right now, it would probably be the same. Illinois finishes 51st in the school breakfast program. Why 51st? Because they're including Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
So is it the administration of it? I don't know. Is the food there? Probably, but why isn't it getting to these kids?
That's right.
And like we said before, it's so important because think about this. Have you ever run out of food and gone to bed hungry? And the chances are yes, maybe once, a couple times. And then you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm still hungry. And that's what's on your mind, as you just pointed out, until you eat.
Right.
There's not okay, it's a new day, things start all over. You're still hungry. And that's what's happening to so many kids in the entire DuPage County area. And if they don't have a breakfast program in the morning to stop that problem, then they got to wait until noon, 11 o'clock, whatever time lunch is. So are they really doing anything in the morning education-wise?
Yeah.
Partially.
Yeah.
Partially. Because I would be thinking about getting food myself.
Yeah.
A friend of mine teaches first grade, and she said sometimes the kids come to school and they're hungry. She says, I always keep snacks in my classroom because she goes, I just know that the kids are hungry and they have to have a snack so they can think.
Yeah.
And it's not just her classroom; it's everywhere.
Everywhere you go, the kids, the seniors are getting the worst now because the Social Security is not going up.
Right.
Again, there's this year the fees.
And just think of this: not only
But prices are going up for food.
right,
prices are going up. Medicine is going up.
Right.
Medicine is going.
right.
Medicine is going sky high right now. I'm speaking as a senior.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of seniors. I just skip my medicine every other day instead of take the pill
So it
every
lasts
day.
twice as long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and think the kid, let's just say 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years, tired of being hungry. So you know what? Now I'm 11, and I see other kids on the street, and they've got a little pocket money, and they always have something to eat in their hand.
The hustle.
So now they might, they get involved in the hustle, and they start. Now they take to the streets. So it starts off with juvenile delinquency, and it's systemic. Could be 3-4 generations incarcerated. You know, it's and it all starts with hunger in my mind, and that's why we do what we do.
Exactly right. And people say, well, how do we fix the gang problem? How do we fix the drug addiction problem? Well, it starts with, hey, you don't need to be in that area.
Sure, right.
You could be better off if you had a source for food and nourishment and clothes, etc.
Right.
Let's talk about the agencies that benefit from the turkey trot that'll be on Thanksgiving morning in Elmhurst.
Okay.
How does someone get to those organizations? What do you need to do to get involved if you are in need of food for your family?
Well, basically, I can't assume that everybody has access to the internet, but if you Google the agencies and just find where they're located, just go there. On the websites will all be posted their distribution times. Loaves and Fishes has 8 distributions per week.
Okay.
And at each distribution, they take care of approximately 160 to 170 families. And again, they don't run out of food because of that Good Samaritan Act.
Right.
A lot of donations. People's Resource Center in Wheaton, which is probably the closest big one to Villa Park. If I was in Villa Park and I needed food, I would go to Catholic Charities and see Amy Palumbo, because we donate to them. What they do is they buy $10 gift cards to Jewel or whatever, could be Aldi's.
Yeah.
And if I've got a family of 4, then she'll give the appropriate gift cards so you can go shopping. And even more than that, they also operate Hope House that we talked earlier. Maybe somebody's homeless.
Yeah.
I know there's a waiting list, but it's a transitional housing project.
Right.
Not even a project. It's a ranch apartment house on Division in Villa Park. So I would start there, and then because we were talking earlier too about the PACE program, the PACE bus.
Yeah.
Most of the people are in need. The last thing that they have right now is money for gas in a car.
Car and insurance. All that.
So any of the agencies that we do have are accessible by PACE. They could go to our website, dangibbonsturkeytrot.com, find out the locations of these organizations, and then take it from there.
Right.
Or call me. My cell number is on everything, and I'll direct you to the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Organizations that are in the county, we talked about a lot of them, and there are some church groups and organizations we're going to help get hooked up with that. But when you donate to them, you're not donating food product. You're donating
Money.
revenue.
Right.
So they can administer it the way they need it
Right.
done.
And then they know what to buy. When they have to buy product, they'll go to the Northern Illinois Food Bank.
Now, what is? Tell me what that is.
The Northern Illinois Food Bank?
Yeah, I know what it is, but you tell me.
Sure. It's a huge. They're part of Feeding America. Their big warehouse is out just west of the DuPage County Airport, and they supply 11. I believe it's 11 counties in Northern Illinois. if you have to buy product,
Right.
and it's a dime a pound or whatever,
Right.
depending on what it is, and depending on what you need. Let's just say Megan, the director at Loaves and Fishes, needs. She has all the protein that she needs for right now. Plenty of beef, chicken, fish, but she might need to buy bread or dairy product. So then they'll buy from there and make sure that they have their, I say warehouse, but it's actually like a little, and most of them are, you shop with dignity. So you'll go through this aisle,
Right.
and you're going to get, personal hygiene items. You might get, come up upon the dry goods, the cereals, then the produce, the dairy product, the meats, the cheeses, everything. And so that's a supplement. The Northern Illinois Food Bank is a supplement. They also train volunteers out there, bring school groups out there for educational. Again, it's all about education. Do the kids today know that there's a hunger problem? They do, because it's part of their education.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say the best thing to learn about it is if anybody wants to know, is to call any of these organizations, go on the tour, maybe get involved in volunteering. But if somebody does need help, they'll get help immediately.
Right, right. Now, the help that you've been providing over the last 32 years, let's put kind of our hands around this. You've been doing the Turkey Trot race, or fun run, in Elmhurst since 1984.
Right.
In that time, Dan, from then until now, how much have you raised in terms of revenue given to these food banks?
Our gross revenue is over $4 million. We've written checks for just short of $3.5 million.
$3.5 million in 30 years, going to all of these organizations so they can feed the people. And we're talking about how many people in DuPage County today that are challenged with hunger?
Two different sets of statistics. The fancy word for being hungry right now is food insecurity.
Yeah,
I choose hunger.
yeah.
Are you? Want me to get you a hot dog? Are you food insecure? What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would confuse people, right?
Statistics say that in DuPage County, 16% of the population, or roughly a little over 100,000 people, are food insecure.
16%.
16%. What food insecure means is that they might not have 3 meals today. I look at, okay, that's great, but the stats that I like to refer to, the stats that motivate me are who's hungry, who's at risk of going to bed without one meal, and those stats are 60,000 people on any given day.
60,000 people in DuPage
60,000 people
16%.
in DuPage County may not have one meal before they go to bed, and 20,000 are kids.
20,000.
I don't know what else you need to know.
Yeah.
And again, let's put it in perspective. Dennis, how many people live in Villa Park?
22,000, 23,000.
So nearly every person in Villa Park, if they were a child in DuPage County, that represents how many people go to bed without one meal in a day.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
I mean, what else do you need to know?
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about volunteering to feed the hungry, our goal is to be a major contributor to the eradication of hunger in DuPage County.
Yeah.
But in our minds, one child that goes to bed hungry is one too many, and it just shouldn't be.
Well, you talked about some organizations in DuPage County. We mentioned they're in Wheaton and Naperville, et cetera.
Right.
And some, the larger ones, some smaller ones in Elmhurst Little Park. But there's kind of a gap. So there needs to be an expansion a little bit.
There does. There does need to be an expansion.
And that gap is where? Tell us where.
Northeast DuPage County.
Okay. Around Bensonville, Wooddale, Itasca. And
My dream is to have a building that operates and looks and acts just like Loaves and Fishes People's Resource Center in Northeast DuPage. Sitting possibly, my ideal position would be in the middle of Addison, in the industrial park on Fullerton. Accessible with 355, North Avenue, Lake Street, the communities that would be affected, the stakeholders,
public transportation.
public transportation, the Pace bus. We'd be able to take care of people from Bensonville, Wooddale, Itasca, Glendale Heights, Addison, Villa Park. These are blue-collar communities.
That's right.
And they need help. And it's time for an expansion in that area. But not only with food. If you give a person a fish, they'll eat for a day. If you teach them how to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. We need to put in this massive food distribution building, we need to put job training. I have a vision of culinary training, because we did it before at Chicago Anti-Hunger Federation. A culinary training that could last 12 weeks.
Yeah.
You could do 4 classes a year. You could partner with College of DuPage and bring in, because they have a phenomenal culinary department, and bring in interns from there. Take care, give our veterans some job training.
Yeah.
Give people that are unemployed and underemployed some job training. The food industry just continues to explode.
Yes, yes.
What about teaching people some technical skills?
Right.
Bring in maybe
The
DeVry.
trades.
The trades.
Yeah.
The county's already partnered with DeVry. Bring in DeVry. We'll have a couple classrooms. Teach people. Bring in some retired tradesmen, some plumbers, some electricians, some carpenters. Teach people trade skills. I don't know about you, but if you ever need a handyman, try and find one.
Yeah.
But if somebody
I
that can
need
do,
one today.
somebody that
You
can
need
do
one.
it.
You need one. How about somebody who doesn't know what computers? They want.
Exactly.
Right.
Computer training.
Yeah.
Right.
In this building can be a holistic training program. A lot of it done with volunteers, but we'd have to have some paid staff. But the bottom line is, we're gonna get that 6 to 8% unemployment rate down. We're gonna find people jobs, because we're gonna train them, and we're gonna have employment liaisons to find them and get them interviews. They can get to the training by Pace bus. They don't need a car.
Right.
And then when they need to go on interviews, we'll get them a Pace card so they can go on the interviews.
Right. Right.
It's all there. We know how to do it. We just have to make it happen.
Dennis, let's take this to that site in Naperville on Deal Road. This idea.
Rev 3.
Rev 3.
Rev 3.
Let's take it there.
Okay.
Let's
I can
talk.
talk to him. I'll talk. Yeah.
Because, as he said, there'll be some grants.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're always looking for out there. Rev
funds
3
that
is
could be
choose
available
choose the
For the
page.
paid staff.
Choose DuPage, exactly.
Choose the page. Through Dan Cronin. You can talk to Dan. See if we can set up something through him too.
Right, and
Right.
what I'm referring to is, if you watched our show last week, we talked with Tom Cullerton, our state senator, about that organization on Deal Road, which is part of Northern Illinois University.
That's right. That's right. It's in the Northern Illinois University
where
building.
it's like a think tank for startups.
It's like
Sure.
they have downtown Chicago in
Sure.
1817.
Right,
Yeah.
Oh, it
and
is.
take a look at facility. Part of it is the facility.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to find a facility that's going to work, and the staffing, the paid staff that you always have to have. You talk about the gross versus net. There's always a funding source that needs to be in place.
No, he's got an idea here of doing that. How often do you get people come in and volunteer their services to you?
I get phone calls all the time. How can I volunteer on race day? How can I volunteer? The Saturday before is very big for us.
Packet.
Yeah, packet pickup,
Yeah.
and it's a 4-hour. People can come in and register in person at the Knights of Columbus.
And how many volunteers you have to set this thing up?
On that Saturday, we'll probably have 40 volunteers. Race day, we'll have 200 volunteers show up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But more importantly, with an expansion, Do you know how many people that are retired that would love to give back?
Right.
Years ago, yeah.
Well,
sure.
we're both there. we don't get paid, but you know.
Yeah, but
You'd be surprised how many people think we get paid on this
I
thing.
bet, yeah.
You know, and we don't. It's crazy. But how
That's
you know
'cause you dress so
volunteers
nice.
today? Volunteers are not there. You know, the Ryan's Club, the Rotary Club.
Well, he's getting them.
Yeah, I'm getting.
But they're all hurting for membership. They're all hurting for membership today.
Well, I mean, and sometimes it's the way volunteers are recruited. I know that. I know that a friend of mine who used to be the volunteer coordinator at PAD, she had a Rolodex and she was really good at it. I know that People's Resource Center and Loaves and Fishes are constantly training volunteers.
Training people, yeah.
They're out there.
When somebody calls them volunteer, you got to put them to work now. You got to put them. Don't take.
You got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, you can't call them. And say, I'll call you back in a month. You know, you got.
I've always found that one of the key success factors in recruiting volunteers, they came to you to volunteer because they believe in your cause. They didn't just throw a dart and say, I'm going to go help because I believe in Dan and how they help. No, they believe in your cause. They made the call, or they emailed you and say, I want to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
So you engage them as soon as you can. Mm-hmm. And in talking to them, because they believe in it, have them take ownership. Make them believe that they're part of your organization right off the bat.
You talked about it. Give them something worthwhile to do.
That's right. Through they volunteer.
Right.
There is, in an organization made up of mostly volunteers, there's no job too small.
Okay.
Because somebody else is depending on you.
And I don't want to be negative now, but Al hit on it before. When you go to these help places and get help for food and stuff, food pantries and stuff, how do you know this guy doesn't go from one food pantry to the other and take advantage of it?
They might, but the policy of all of our benefactors is, okay, we're going to help them one time. Mm-hmm. Then we find out that, okay, we might ask for some identification. We find out that somebody's coming to Wheaton who lives in Oswego. Yeah. They're going to help them one time, but they're going to refer them next time who wants to go here.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
And we know from St. Paul's that some of them do share information.
Information. We know that from St. Paul. We got a hand and foot in Villa Park here.
Mm-hmm.
Hand and foot is the items you can't buy at the food pantry. So the tissues, napkins, and stuff like paper
soaps,
they come out of St. Paul's out of Villa Park.
Okay.
You know, and they're always there. They get shoes now too. Yeah. They give you shoes and stuff to wear and stuff.
This time of year you got to have gloves and mittens.
Yeah,
and
they need
stocking caps.
They're doing that, you know, but they only open one Sunday a month now because they run out of product, you know.
Well, we're getting close here.
And you get people in town who are the same people going all over, they're taking advantage of the system. I think it was John Valley says, if it was 5% of the people taking advantage, I'm helping 95%.
That's right.
You know,
there are always some people that are going to circumvent the system. There's nothing you can do about it. The best thing to do is take the high road. You know, I used to get an attitude about that. I said, why? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Just think of the 95% of the people that you are
95% you are helping.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, we were talking to Dan Gibbons in the center of the screen there. He is the originator and organizer for the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot fun run on Thanksgiving. Every Thanksgiving for the last 32 years. This is 32nd year.
This 32nd year.
And let's just talk about some of the details. The start of the race is 9 a.m. at Park Avenue and Cottage Hill Avenue in Elmhurst.
Right.
To give us a perspective where that's by the
train station. By the metro station. It's exactly where the post office is on Park.
Okay. So if you want to use public transportation, metro station's right there in Elmhurst stop on the west line of the metro system. Registration, there's a race day registration facility at Elmhurst College Gymnasium this year, right? That's new?
Right. This is the first time we're inside the gym, and the beauty of it is we've got 7 trolleys that are picking people up at York and Valletta on the south end of Elmhurst. They can park anywhere in that area.
York and Valletta.
All up and down Spring Road, York High School, and then there's that huge parking lot right at Elmhurst College.
And the reason why we need this is how many people are anticipated to come to this race on Thanksgiving morning, leave their families, and come and run for this event on Thanksgiving this year?
Over 8,000.
8,000.
Yeah. We're going to keep doing it till we get it right.
We're doing great so far.
Yeah.
Race day, 6:30 a.m. to 8:55 a.m. There's when you can register if you're not pre-registered, and the registration fee is going to be $40 then. If you pre-register online at dangibbonsturkeytrot.com, DANGIBBONS, turkey, TROT.com, it's $35 per, and a service fee maybe for the registration. They always do that, so that's
Actually,
fine.
for the next 3 days, we've got a Veterans Day special for online registrations, $30.
$30,
Yeah.
okay. So Veterans Day being tomorrow as we tape this program.
Yeah, it'll
you
go all the way
can
till
still get
midnight
online.
on the 12th.
Okay, through Thursday.
Right.
Okay. In person, Saturday, November 21st, 2 to 6 p.m. at Knights of Columbus on South York Road in Elmhurst.
Right.
That's near the Illinois Prairie Path, a little bit south
Right,
of
exactly there, yeah.
Just south.
Okay. And that's still $35 because it's
$35.
pre-race day.
Right. And anybody that registers online can come and pick up their shirt and bib that day as well.
Shirt and the bib numbers and all of the registration stuff. And then by mail, you could still use snail mail or post office, and you can make checks payable to Turkey Trot, mailed to Post Office Box 1182, Elmhurst, Illinois, zip code 60126. Did I get all that right?
Exactly.
I was reading it,
Perfect.
so I better got it right.
If you didn't get it right, that means I didn't make it right on the form, right?
Okay.
So,
But also listed here, and I really want to let you have a chance to talk about these folks, are all of those sponsors. You talked about it's the second year you ran the race.
Right.
You had 4.
at 4.
Now you've got
Now we've got 50 plus.
50 plus, and one that's been there all along. I mentioned him earlier, the Billings family.
Billings family.
Billings
family.
Financials.
And, yeah.
And you've got a lot more here. They run
Got
the
Schiller,
gamut.
the Schiller family.
Yeah, Schiller was an original one as
It
well.
was an original.
And-
Billy
and-
Schiller, the Elmhurst Police.
There's folks and organizations from Villa Park as well. These are not all Elmhurst. These are all around the county. I know one of the restaurants here in town, Mickey's Hot Dogs, is one of your sponsors.
Yes, he is. And
Dave,
one
over there.
Dave, and then my buddy Mickey's my golfing
Mickey.
buddy. He's got a store here in Villa Park, and he's got one in Bellwood on Manheim.
Right.
But
Great place for hot dogs.
one of your village trustees is Nick Gazzone.
Who's Nick? I don't know.
Yeah,
Nick.
you know Nick.
We like Nick.
And his
Nick-
company, Environmental Protection Services.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a sponsor as well.
Nick put us
Been
in touch
forever.
with you, by the way. Nick, told us to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy. Him and his brother Tony have been
Are they on your
they've
commission?
been on the committee for.
On your committee?
Our board is 24 people.
Wow.
Tony and Nick
They
have
still
been
get
there
stuff
forever.
done.
We get stuff done, right? Right.
Well, and Nick Gazzone, our trustee here, we've had him on the show before, and he was the named. He was an award winner in the past because of his support of your fundraising and your event. And you give out an award every race day to an individual or organization in honor of a former York Duke
Yeah,
who passed away years ago.
Brian Wagner. In fact, I coached him in Little League in football visitation. He passed away between junior and senior year of high school for just a car accident over the 4th of July.
Yeah.
But Brian was always a foot shorter than everybody else, but he had the biggest heart, and he was always the guy.
Kind of the Rudy of Notre Dame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have what's called the Brian Wagner Extra Effort Award. That's awarded to somebody. It's always a surprise award. It's awarded to somebody who goes above and beyond, like Brian always did. Brian was president of his junior class, and he was just slated for big things.
Okay.
And his untimely death, he was 16 and a half years old.
Yeah.
And because Nick's one of the silent guys. Nick just does his job. What are we going to do? He's smart. He just helps out. So he was
Get it done.
he was a recipient. Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be announced race day this
Yep.
year, and an honorable award for anybody to receive. I know the York cross-country team was the original recipient of
Yes.
state champions years ago.
They were.
And Nick Gazzone has been an award, and you have also
I
been a
did.
recipient?
They surprise me.
Don't you love it when they turn
I
around and do
know.
that to you?
I know. In fact, the award hangs all year round in Silverado, where basically, when it was a Sunset
Where all
Grill,
that started, yeah.
that's where it all started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the race course, we talked about it starting. Start and finish lines are two different locations.
Right.
But start line is near the metro station on Park in
In
Elmhurst.
Cottage Hill, right?
And I won't go through the details of the route, but it goes through the underpass. And
A little bit of neighborhood, back under Palmer Drive,
Yeah.
down Addison Street, and they promised me it's going to be paved. It's all torn up right now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It will be done. They're on schedule.
Yeah.
And then it winds back to the underpass, past Wilder Mansion, the Veterans Memorial,
Elmhurst
and
College.
finishes right in front of the Iron Gate, the entrance to Elmhurst College.
Excellent. Excellent. So it's a picturesque route.
There
Not
he
too
is.
much up and down other than the underpass, right?
I get called a lot of names that second time up. Nothing I can do
Yeah,
about
going
it.
under the train tracks in Elmhurst downtown there. And this is one event, but there's also another event that you do as a fundraiser. And I know Nick Cazzone, again, will bring his name up. He should give us some kind of compensation.
Yeah, he
How
won't.
much we
He
talked about.
won't.
I think a gift card to a restaurant or something, maybe, huh?
But he was involved in a 100-hole event.
100-hole golf marathon, and him and I played together. We had 36 guys that played 100 holes of golf in one day to raise money for the foundation. When the foundation decided to be part of the expansion for DuPage County
Okay.
to extend our community outreach, we decided as a board that we need to have more events. So the golf outing is going to be, that golf marathon is going to be an annual event.
Okay.
We look to net over $100,000 on that event alone.
Wow.
And that's all going into the other kitty, the pot for the expansion. All the organizations that benefit from the turkey trot, that money isn't going to be touched. We're not going to abandon anybody.
Okay.
I want to create another event in collaboration with Elmhurst College, a hunger walk that kind of replicates the Relay for Life.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can't say too much about it right now because we have to, but I think I'm going to create a little competition among DuPage County hospitals because cardiac rehab people walk in groups
Right.
and they can form teams
Right.
and they can walk as a team.
And Edwards Hospital sponsors of
Edwards
marathon.
sponsors.
Yeah.
Edwards and Elmhurst,
There's one
healthy
hospital,
driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edwards and Elmhurst.
There
Okay.
you go.
Central DuPage. Well, it's called Cadence now.
Yeah.
Hinsdale Hospital. Good Samaritan. Why can't we work?
No-brainer.
And we've got connections to all these hospitals.
Right. Right.
So why not bring them in and help them be part of the expansion in Northeast DuPage?
Right.
It's a natural fit.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to read this question because I think it's really well written, and I want to ask you this
Sure.
to help close our. We still have more, but to help close. With all the statistics and demographics that come into play concerning hunger, unemployment, poverty, the SNAP program, which is the food stamp program, or supplementary nutrition assistance program, is there one simple phrase that puts things in perspective for you? In other words, what is the one single most factor that keeps you motivated to fight this fight against hunger?
Al and Dennis, what we talked about earlier, is in this great county,
Yeah.
and this is one of many counties throughout the country. But our focus is right here in our own backyard.
Yeah.
60,000 people are at risk of going to bed without one meal today, tonight, tomorrow night. 20,000 are kids. I don't know what else you need to know. I hate it. It drives me. It drives our committee. It's what makes us tick.
Yeah. Well, there are events that happen, like we talked about at the VFWs in Villa Park and Elmhurst, the American Legion, that are going to provide a meal that one day to very important people, our Navy recruits, and that's going to happen on Thanksgiving. Lots of people doing that. And your effort here with the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot every year is not a one-day effect.
No,
It's a year-long effect.
it is.
You almost start right after you're done with the next year.
We'll have our first meeting for the 33rd annual. That will happen again at home base. We'll meet at Silverado in January.
Yeah.
The first half of our meeting will critique this year. The second half of the meeting will be about next year.
Yeah. So you take, barely a month off, and you're
Yeah.
right into 11 months of planning for the next
Exactly.
event. Yeah, yeah,
And the money, the checks will be in hand to all our benefactors
yeah.
by December 10th.
Right.
So it's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. So, I am not currently a runner, and
Me neither.
Dennis isn't. You're not either. We have another guy that's absent today, Sid Berg, and on behalf of our show, we're going to donate registration for all three of us.
Nice.
Okay, that's not going to tip the scales for you.
I will hand deliver your shirts.
That'd be great.
I'll have Nick come with me.
Okay.
Well, he should by now.
He
I
should
know.
be.
He
Yeah.
should help us out. No, Nick's a great guy. We're talking about Nick Kazone. And we've been talking with Dan Gibbons, who's the executive director of the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot. Dennis, looks like you want to say something?
No, it was just a great idea and everything else. But you said 20,000 out of the 60,000 are kids.
It's crazy.
How many are seniors?
That's the demographic we have to work on.
Seniors, don't be too proud. Ask for help.
No.
It's there for you.
Just ask for help
You-
because
You're not asking. You're not begging for nothing. It's there to help you. And when you don't have nothing to do, call your neighbor next door and say how you doing.
you know what my guesstimate would be? Of those 60,000, 20,000 are kids. My guesstimate would be 20,000 or better are seniors.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
because there's more and more in Social Security. We're in the same boat. Social Security is not going up again this year. It's going down. Prices are going up. The seniors need it more and more.
Medication's going up.
Oh, without a doubt, it's going sky high. So the seniors, go for help. Township is the best one for you to go to talk to. And if they can't help you there, they'll tell you where to go.
And all the
And
other
follow
other
up with
groups
that
we talked
then.
about
Yeah.
today, yeah. And we'll put a list on our Facebook page. We talked about, you got a great Facebook group working with you, right?
Our college interns, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Helping get the information out. And let's go through it one more time. Thanksgiving Day, this November 26th, the start of the race for the Dan Gibbons Turkey Trot is at 9 a.m. at Park and Cottage Hill in Elmhurst. If you haven't registered beforehand, I'll tell you how in a minute, but if you haven't registered beforehand, you can register that day at the Elmhurst College Gymnasium at Fagano Hall on Walter Street between 6:30 a.m., you got to get up early to run, and 8:55. So, you can run this race, starts at 9 o'clock, and you're done by 11 with all the festivities, noon.
By 11 o'clock, everybody's on their way home.
You're on your way home. You
Yeah.
can enjoy the rest of the turkey day with family and friends, and have been doing something very important in the morning. Pre-registration online, though, is at dangibbonsturkeytrot.com. It's $35 per person plus a small service fee. And in person, still can do so at the Knights of Columbus on 537 South York Road in Elmhurst between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturday, November 21st. $35 fee there. Or by mail by making a check payable to Turkey Trot, just simply Turkey Trot, mailed to Post Office Box 1182, Elmhurst, Illinois 60126.
Very good.
Okay?
We got 2 minutes to go. What do you got?
I
What
can't
else you
thank
got?
you enough for being here.
We're not here for you. We're
I
here
know,
for
but-
people.
But I want to thank Nick for putting
How-
me in touch with both of you.
How do you get one of these?
They're everywhere, I think.
Okay.
I'll leave some here.
We're going to
Okay.
put them down at the Village
The
Hall,
Village Hall downstairs.
manager's office.
Okay.
And they'll be available where you find lots of material for the Village of Villa Park. We'll get some over to the Public Works Department and to the Iowa Community Center and the Community Center on Wildwood.
Great.
So that people can get these.
Thank you very much, Dan,
Thank
for
you so
coming
much,
today.
you guys. And
Thank
I
you.
want that information because there's a
About the church in here.
about the church that needs help.
Yeah.
And I'll do it. Thank you.
We will offer our assistance in helping you get that gap filled. I know you're working on that on your committee.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do to help, and if we can support that, you tell us how.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, if not now, when?
If not us, who? Thank you.
Thank you.